to kind of finish up the show, Reese and I both constructed our ideal offseason for the Chicago Bears. And just for some baseline rules, we said no trading for Deshaun Watson, no trading or getting Stafford, and Dak is off the table as well. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Reese, why don't you go ahead? Since I had that long monologue, I'm kind of winded, I'd say.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and start us off on this one?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that, the first step in the right direction is to basically just let Trubisky walk. Of course, the fifth-year option wasn't extended to him. And, I don't think he needs a new contract. I think he can go ahead and leave off to maybe greener pastures for him, hopefully. I mean, I don't wish any ill on him. And, kind of fill that hole, I'd say that they end up drafting, Trey Lance optimally in the first round, or, end up trading up to take Zach Wilson. I think that either one of those options, maybe they both require a trade up. I think that it's really hard to say exactly how it's all going to shake out now, because so much happens over this offseason where people's stocks will rise and fall for really sometimes it seems like no reason at all. It just happens. There's a lot that happens before draft day. So I think that, any one of those two moves would definitely be something that I'd be happy with. I think that someone like Roy Robertson Harris, who, maybe the Bears would look to retain if they, had more cap, certainly if they had more cap, or, maybe they're weighing his performance against someone else that has a bigger cap hit like Akeem Hicks. I think that he ends up walking as well. And from there, I think most of my attention turns to the offensive line. I think that Kendall Lamb would be someone that could come in and play right tackle. He's not someone that's, crazy big at the position, but I also kind of want to be realistic with, where the Bears are in cap as well. And, of course, I'd say, Brandon Scherf, that'd be an amazing pickup for this team. I also said someone like Alejandro Villanueva, who of course played for the Steelers. He's not someone that's a stud, but he's someone that's been playing consistently at a high level for a while and would definitely, add some strength to the perimeter of the offensive line. I think that, we feel pretty comfortable with where the interior is at least with 2 out of the 3 interior positions, and, kind of want to see a little bit more focus towards that tackle position. And, another person that can solve that would be someone like Alex Leatherwood, who is the tackle from Alabama that is coming out, has been protecting Mac Jones, the quarterback that we do not want. And I think that he certainly has a decent level of play. I think that he could end up being someone that's in that second round. So even if the Bears decide to part ways with their, first round pick, it's someone that they could still realistically pick up. If they end up drafting a quarterback in the first round, they could go back and get him. And another thing that I saw, if Allen Robinson ends up walking, they don't give him a franchise tag. Someone like Corey Davis maybe, isn't a little bit of affordable option for them, brings a little bit of the same, totally different not totally different, but totally different in the way that they want to play their game. They end up playing a little similar. They both have the strength of decent route running. I would say that Corey Davis is a little more explosive, a little speedier, but not, bigger. He's no... Yeah, in my opinion, he has maybe better intangibles, but doesn't execute his game quite as well. Has had a little bit of injury issues. Less consistent. So maybe someone you're able to bring in on a decent deal and, in the right system, might just need that one consistent year where he finds himself and could be, someone that you keep around on your roster for a long time. So my main focus was mainly on offense. I think there's a lot of things that could happen on the defensive side of the ball. If there is a Deshaun Watson trade, then, maybe someone like Eddie Jackson goes. Maybe someone like Akeem Hicks goes. I think that those are definitely possibilities. I think that, there's a decent amount of restructuring. I think the defense will look likely very much the same, but, we will see.
Yeah, so from what I've kind of played around with SpoTrack and then other different types of apps that kind of let you control cap space and do different types of things, it looks like really the range of, with the exception of if we cut Akeem Hicks or traded him, which I don't foresee happening, but I also don't say is off the table, perhaps. I think that a trade for him, I don't think it'd be to the Texans in a Watson trade, because what are the Texans going to do with a 32-year-old Akeem Hicks? I could see maybe us sending him to like the Chargers where he can rejoin Staley, or something like that, where he kind of rejoins a former head coach of his, and that sees his value there. But that being said, the Bears can kind of range their cap from almost nothing to like 50 million total. And really it's just this year that's the major issue. Next year we can have up to like 100 million in cap. So it's really weird how cap works, but we could get guys to, kind of take deals that are more, delayed with their payouts as well. But to start, I kind of referenced some coaching staff changes as well. I said hiring Betcher for defensive coordinator. I said, I think that the right move would be to find someone more capable than Bill Lazor. I think Bill Lazor helped Matt Nagy a lot, but I also don't think he's the ceiling. So I say fire Bill Lazor, hire Doug Peterson as the offensive coordinator. Since he just got fired, I think he'd be a great offensive coordinator for this team. And then kind of have that, he worked really well with our quarterbacks coach as well. Dave Filippo, of course. And the only re-signings I would do currently are Cordell Patterson. I love Cordell Patterson as a character and as a player. I think that he is such a funny follow on Twitter, if you haven't done that. And then also I just think he's just such a funny dude. And then outside of that, technically the best kick returner of all time, So keep him, definitely, in my opinion. Our return game has been insane since he's came back. Bring back Bars Mustapher on small deals. And then some cuts. I would cut Bobby Massey. I think we need to make some changes to the offensive line. That would save us about $7 million in cap. Cut Jimmy Graham. That would save us another $7 million in cap. And cut Anthony Miller, which would save us only about $2 million. But the reason why I want to cut him is just because, he just has been kind of an annoyance, lately. I feel like to this team, he's constantly on Twitter talking about how he doesn't get enough targets, fighting players against the Saints. I would be fine if we moved on from him, which is unfortunate because I was someone who had really high hopes for Anthony Miller in the league. And then something that may, come at, a little bit of a surprise, but I would actually trade Kyle Fuller if it was me making the decisions. At that $20 million, needing a new deal, is about to be 30 years old. I think you're going to get the most out of Fuller if you just trade him right now. You can maybe get a second round pick if you send back, maybe a fourth or something. So I had us trading Kyle Fuller to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Urban Meyer gets a cornerback. He says he wants to win now. Why not start building up that secondary again, get Kyle Fuller and send us their pick 13 in the second round, right? This doesn't seem too bad. So then for some free agency signings, I said, Corey Linsley on the Packers right now, all pro center. While I do like Mustard, there's no doubt Corey Linsley would be a much big addition to that. And then also that is going to help our run game tremendously. We're talking about as our starters, Corey Lindsey. We got James Daniels, really high potential guard. And then also the other benefit is Cody Whitehair can switch back to guard, which the Bears have said they view him as a potential all-pro at that position and have just been playing him at center because of need. So that could be, three, a really, really strong interior offensive line, and make it a little bit easier to build around the edges with that as well. David Montgomery would thank us a lot. And then I also said Corey Davis. I think that, he's someone who's this year put up like 900 yards almost, and I think he put up like 8 touchdowns or something. Not anything crazy, but someone who's very young, very physically gifted, and could just be reaching, the floor of what his potential could be in the future. Probably would take about $10 million for anyone that cares on a yearly basis. It's another one is Chris Conley from the Jaguars. He also played with Nagy. He's a slot receiver. Bring him in on a cheap deal. Pretty easy. And then someone that I also think would be beneficial is potentially like a Hunter Henry. he's probably going to get a little bit overpaid, but we'd be probably paying him about what we'd be paying Graham anyways this year. So it just kind of makes sense that rather than paying Graham $10 million. And then Xavier Rhodes, he's not going to get a major deal either. He's just kind of a, patchwork guy. Get him in on a small contract if you're sending out Kyle Fuller. And then in the draft, I wanted to do something kind of crazy. So I ended up trading our first round pick this year, first round pick next year, and a second round pick in 2020 to the Dolphins to have us pick Zach Wilson. There's your, franchise QB that you're hoping for. The Bears said they're going to be aggressive in their press conference. Let's see if they can be this aggressive. And then in round 2, we have two second round picks, Christian Darrisaw and Paulson Adebo from Stanford. And then in round 3, Hamza Nasir-Eldin. A great strong safety there as well. So then really just overall, just really what this is I want the Bears to get younger, and but I don't necessarily want them to do a complete, rebuild. I think that just like a quick one season, get some young talent. I mean, if we did something like this, we would have almost all of our DBs would be extremely young. You'd have potential of growth with Paulson Adebo, and just the entire, the offensive line gets strengthened. Charles Leno Jr., if Christian Darrisaw doesn't step in immediately and become that franchise left tackle, you can play him at right tackle, and Charles Leno can keep playing left tackle. If he does start becoming that franchise left tackle, great. Now you have a franchise left tackle. You can switch Charles Leno to right tackle, and now you have an insane offensive line. So really, even though I know we would be technically getting, I don't think we'd necessarily be getting worse at receiver. I think we'd be more even at all of our receiver positions, right? We'd have maybe our top end wide receiver isn't as good, but our slot receiver is better. And then we'd have a better tight end group, which would be Hunter Henry and Cole Kmet, which would be really good. And the other thing that I really like about something like this is that now the Bears have so many different options. If they want to go heavy, I mean, you could put Cole Kmet, Hunter Henry, Corey Davis, Chris Conley's like 6'1", 6'2" out there. And then you have a really good offensive line as well. So that'd be great, right? And if you want speed, you still have speed in there as well, and athleticism with Darnell Mooney, a guy like Cole Kmet, who's very athletic. Chris Conley is pretty athletic, and Corey Davis is very athletic. So it has a really good kind of mixture, and I think that this would really morph the team into a very dangerous team. And then also one that has a brighter future than it has now. It doesn't have quite that timeline that we currently have on it.
Yeah, I think that you definitely put together a good roster. I think one that I'd certainly be happy walking into the year with, also with the coaching staff as well. Definitely like, Betcher. I think that, Hunter Henry would certainly be someone that Bears fans would like. He's a great receiving tight end. I will say that, maybe not quite on the physical side as good as Kmet is, not as sound of a blocker, but, being someone that's been able to watch him pretty frequently, he balls out. I mean, he's a great player. A little bit injury concerned, but everyone would like him, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that he might be a guy that the Chargers look to not re-sign because he's going to probably have a number in his head that isn't necessarily great for him, but right. I can't imagine that giving him $8 million a year can be any worse than paying Jimmy Graham $10 million next year. So exactly. I think I'd rather roll with a guy like Hunter Henry. Another name out there, Jonnu Smith, another great tight end, probably going to get paid about the same. But didn't end up picking him because then I'd have two Titans guy, and I didn't want to be turning this offense into the Titans offense. So
we don't want that.
No, we don't. But Corey Davis is someone that I'd really look out for. I think he's going to be on a steal of a contract potentially, or he could just have an absolutely insane contract that just makes no sense too. Right. But this is a pretty good wide receiver class. I think Davis could be a really good replacement for Allen Robinson. Obviously not going to be the same type, but taking a bet on a younger guy as well, more physically dominant guy could be huge for this team's future.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's certainly steps up that, this offense can definitely take, and both sides of the ball, really. I think that it's just where I'm more inclined to talk about the offense, or at least I am. But I think that, there's certainly a lot of ways for them to go, and at least, what we just did there, at least get the ball rolling for some of you.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. And, I think that's going to really be about it. I mean, that's about all we had, just kind of talking about, where this could be. And, any last words, Reese?
No, I don't have any last words. I'm about tapped out. I think I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys so much, and bear down.
Bear down.
Hey guys, like our video, subscribe, and check out our bi-weekly podcast on Apple Podcasts. Thanks.